Before showing screenshots of the application, let's define some terminology and look at what data is managed for PHAs. A complex PHA begins with a PHA project. Each PHA project has several PHA drawing objects associated with it. Usually these are the individual P&IDs, which describe the process within a unit. There may be dozens of these for a single unit. The process shown on a given PHA drawing is partitioned into a number of nodes. Here again, there's a one-to-many relationship between the drawing and its nodes. Each node is specified with a number of attributes: the node number, the node name, the design intent, the design conditions, affected equipment, and reference drawings. A given node may have hazards associated with it. How you label the fields is up to you, and some clients call them hazards, others call them deviations, and still others call them conditions. Note that what I'm describing is the HAZOP methodology. If this were a what-if methodology, then the hazard would be replaced with the what-if question. Each hazard is described by a number of attributes as well: the hazard/deviation/condition number, the affected asset type, for example, equipment, instrumentation, or piping, the cause number and description of what the cause may be, the consequence number and description of what the consequence might be, the severity, likelihood, and risk number, and even the independent protection layers needed. The risk specification and calculation is likely to be different for each client, and there's a mechanism to ensure that your risk ranking is used rather than just some out-of-the-box cookie-cutter approach. Each hazard may be addressed by one or more safeguards, but a given safeguard can address several hazards, so there can be a many-to-many relationship between the safeguards and the hazards. Starting from the left in the diagram, note that the name of the item is in italicized font. This is to convey the notion of belonging. PID 4711 belongs to the PHA project. Node 1 belongs to drawing PID 4711. Conditions 1 and 2 belong to Node 1. However, Alarm 15 is used to fully or partially address Condition 1, but Alarm 15 may also address other conditions. So, Alarm 15 does not exclusively belong to Condition 1. In order to denote that Alarm 15 comes from a separate list of safeguards, it is shown in boldface type. The same is true for recommendations. You can have a separate list of recommendations and reference them without recreating the same recommendation each time you use it. The data for a given drawing is all collected together in one worksheet. Here we see all the data for PID 4711. Here's all the data for PID 4712. And finally, these sheets all appear in an Excel workbook for the hydro treater in this example. So now that we understand the model, let's see what this looks like in FACILEX. We start by creating a PHA project. The important fields are the title and what this PHA pertains to, as specified by the area and unit. Guidance to the PHA team is also possible, but not required. Once completed, the new PHA project object appears in the participants portal. You can see PHA 19-0003 in the My Projects table. Also shown in red is the Quick Launch link that lets you start the process. If you click on the PHA project icon, you'll be taken to the dashboard for the project, just like any other FACILEX business object. The first active task is to save supporting documentation in the applicable folder. This is similar to how other FACILEX applications begin. The next task is to create PHA drawings. Clicking on the icon brings up the PHA drawing initiation form. This allows you to specify the title and drawing number. You can choose the PHA methodology as well. This presentation will focus on the full HAZOP methodology. The full what if works in a similar manner. However, not every PHA requires a facilitated team approach. Often, PHAs associated with routine MOCs are very simple. So there are several methodologies labeled simple, which just present a Word template that the user completes without the overhead of a full HAZOP. The idea is that if the FACILEX PHA application is to be used, it has to address all the needs, big and small. At the bottom, we see choices labeled PHA type, which permits the creation of new PHAs as well as periodic revalidation, incremental changes, and maintaining an evergreen PHA. Here is a second PHA drawing. If you look carefully, you'll see that the drawing number is different from the previous slide. The drawings are children of the parent PHA project and are shown on the PHA project dashboard as such. We can go to the dashboard for a particular drawing by clicking on its icon. You can always determine where you are in the application by looking at the object number. In this case, FACILEX is telling you that you're on PHA 19003, and within that PHA project, you're at drawing 0005. After saving any relevant documentation in the folders, the next task is to create the nodes. Clicking the Node Tool icon brings up the node creation form. This has the same fields that I described in the PowerPoints a few minutes ago. Since most drawings have multiple nodes, you can click on Create Another to create another node. Once you do, a second node creation form appears. All the data from the first form is copied to the second form, and you just need to make the necessary changes rather than typing everything in again. Once the nodes have been created, they appear as children on the PHA drawing dashboard. Note that the nodes are fully described just as they would be in a real-world usage of the PHA application. Having created the nodes, the next thing to do is to export the configuration to Excel. You can use the tool shown in the green box on the slide. When you open the workbook, you'll notice a number of things. The PHA drawing and node are fully described, as shown in the light red shaded area. The choice of shading color is configurable. We've just made it very bold so that it stands out in this presentation. Next, you see a blue shaded header, which defines the fields that appear in the HAZOP. Below the header are 10 blank HAZOP line items represented in the rows of the spreadsheet. You can insert and delete as many rows as you wish for each node. You can also copy data from one node to another using the standard Excel copy-paste functionality. The whole idea of doing this in Excel is to enable the fluid Excel user interface that users like so much. The fields with the goldenrod shading are drop-down fields. You can pick values from a predetermined list. I have started to fill in some of the data for this PHA. Admittedly, there's a lot of data on the slide, but that's entirely typical of real HAZOPs. In this example, I've hidden columns N through Q to make the slide more readable. That's where the safeguard data is hidden. When you've finished, just save and close the workbook. Note that the HAZOP is performed locally on your PC, so the Excel file needs to be re-imported into FACILEX. From the dashboard, you can click on the applicable tool and then import the spreadsheet. You might have several different styles of HAZOPs. For example, some may contain a safeguard analysis and others not. And that can be specified via the configuration file selection. Once you've told FACILEX what kind of HAZOP you're importing, you can select the file. Upon import, FACILEX will validate the Excel file to ensure that there's no bad data in it. If there is bad data, then you are presented with a warning message and directed to the appropriate log file which details the error. You can fix it in Excel and reattempt the import. It should be noted that every file exported from FACILEX and every file imported into FACILEX is saved. Perhaps you've decided that there's actually more to this PHA than was first contemplated. For example, you'd like to add another node. You can do that by using the Related Items menu on the button bar. The Related Items menu appears as shown on this slide, and you can add another node. You can also use the export and import functions whenever you wish by clicking on the applicable links on the button bar. As we see here, Node 3 has been created. All the HAZOP data is in SharePoint, so one might ask, how do you get to it? By clicking on the link shown in the green box to the left, all the data related to this node can be viewed in SharePoint. The red box displays the properties of the node itself. The green box displays the details of the related HAZOP line items, similar to how they appeared in the spreadsheet. After the HAZOP is done, it's possible to create the follow-up items. There are several options here. You can create individual action items one at a time. You can create a group of action items in a tabular interface where you can see all of them at the same time. Or you can run a tool which generates action items by looking at the recommendations coming out of the PHA. Which way you want to go with this is part of the configuration process. So far, we focused on starting at the drawing level and seeing how HAZOPs are created. However, we can also start the PHA at the PHA project level and export all the data for the entire project to an Excel workbook. Each drawing works exactly the same as if we had started at the drawing level, but now we have access to the hazard data for the entire unit. Individual drawings are shown on individual tabs, as per the red box. A final detail pertains to the values in the drop-downs. That's all contained on the Validation Data tab, as shown at the right of the red box. When we go to the Validation Data tab, we see the allowable values for all the fields highlighted with goldenrod shading. There is considerable configurability associated with this. Options include: this sheet is completely locked down and users cannot create or modify any of the choices. Or, this sheet permits the addition of new values which can be used in a given workbook but do not become part of the standard list of values. You'll have to decide what works best for you. So, to summarize, Gateway has created a PHA application that is fully integrated with the FACILEX suite of applications. Based on client feedback, all data is managed in SharePoint, but the user interface is in Excel. The process of moving data back and forth between the environments is seamless, with no retyping of data needed. The process model follows industry best practice with projects, drawings, nodes, hazards, risks, safeguards, and recommendations. The critical OSHA requirement of managing follow-up items is managed in a seamless and integrated manner. And thank you for taking the time to listen to this presentation. As always, if you have questions, just contact us at Gateway.